Hey everyone, this is Julie. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Just want to give you a heads up that this is a two-parter. You're going to hear the first part this week and you'll hear the second part next week. Jacob did a lot of research and he's super passionate about this story, and it is quite a thrill ride. So sit back and enjoy this week's episode. Welcome to Garage Sales Unhinged,
where the characters are as quirky as the finds.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Jake.
Join us as we dive into the wild world of garage sales, yard sales, estate sales, and anywhere secondhand sales are happening.
From bizarre bargains to hilarious haggles.
You won't believe the stories we've got lined up.
Let's get unhinged.
Well, hello and welcome to Garage Sales Unhinged, the only podcast with a vague odor that just won't go away. I'm your host, Jake, and the source of that smell is my co-host, Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi, everyone should be very thankful that we have not figured out this scratch and sniff of podcast yet, because you're welcome.
Where did that technology go? Scratch and sniff. You don't see it anymore.
I wonder. So I've actually thought about this. The things that you actually like, the chemicals that they use to make the scratch and sniff thing, like what if it was arsenic? What if it was lead?
Yeah, it probably wasn't very good for you. They're like, scratch this, it smells like banana, but it's actually the ingredients of napalm.
I remember like as a kid, I loved getting the stickers that were scratch and sniff because like if you got a strawberry, it smelled like strawberries.
So
like
good, the strawberry.
It's the Willy Wonka effect, right? Oh, can I tell a story that is just so off the wall funny?
Does it involve scratch and sniff?
Yes.
I would hoping so, because otherwise I'm not sure how it came to you. I was kind of going to say we should take a medication time out, but go ahead.
So I was hanging out with some friends, as one does, and my friend was telling me about the book of Willy Wonka, and I've never read
The book of Willy Wonka. Did your friend refer to it as such?
No, because I can't remember the actual book title. Jacob, don't call me out. I'm in the middle of a story.
The book of Willy Wonka sounds like the prequel, the dark prequel, where he's escorting some Grogu baby through a chocolate factory.
The book of Willy Wonka didn't make it into the Bible. Okay, what was the original title? Okay, the title is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I was getting there, whatever. I never read the book, and the book is drastically different than the movies.
Yeah.
So she was telling me about the book and the different scenes in it, and Willie saves the Oompa Loompas from the Snozzes.
Yeah.
The Snozzes were hunting the Oompa Loompas, and that's how they became the servants of essentially Willy Wonka, because they were thanking him for saving them from this horrible tragedy. But in the movie, where Gene Wilder's character goes to the wall and he's like, "These smells like schnozberries," and you're like, "Wait, how do you know what a schnozberry smells like, Willie?" So we were laughing about that, and I was like, "Wait a minute, do you think Oompa Loompas taste like orange chicken?" That's the joke. And so now my friends, whenever they are at a Asian restaurant or at the grocery store and they see orange chicken, they always send me a picture of it and go, "Look, Oompa Loompas in the wild." Yeah, so apparently, if schnozberries have a specific scent to them, I'm like, apparently the Oompa Loompas must smell like something. And since they're those little orange characters, I'm like, clearly they smell like orange chicken.
Roald Dahl, who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, wrote a lot of other stuff. And as time went on, people realized, okay, Roald Dahl had some warts,
Yes.
And he wrote some other stuff where the term snozberry also came up. And the term snozberry was used interchangeably with certain parts of the anatomy. So
maybe you don't want to scratch and sniff that wallpaper, kids.
Maybe not, yeah. Unless you are very niche. Kids, are you niche? Are you niche? Are you cool?
Hey, if anyone's out there on a dating app, that should be your profile. Are you niche?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my snatch and snatch. Nope, not
No,
snatch.
why? Snatch and sniff? Oh no.
Scratch and sniff story.
This is not where I wanted to go.
Oh, good luck turning this episode around, Jake.
Well, I opened this up by saying that you were the source of the mysterious smell. And so it's
I'm
kind of
the
full
source of the
circle.
derailing most of the time.
Yeah. Well, okay, here's a question. Has there ever been a time in your life
Yes,
that you felt that you were duped, that you had bought into the hype about something,
yes,
or that? Okay, yes,
yeah.
go on. Like what comes to mind? Like if it helps. Think about something where you were so deeply invested in something, whether that's like financially or just a lot of energy and time or emotional investment. You were so invested in it that it was really tough to see or accept the truth about whatever it was.
The show Lost.
Oh, come on. You didn't like Lost?
I loved Lost until the writer's strike happened and the
Yeah.
story ended on such a low point.
Yeah.
Like, there's still unanswered questions that I have about the show that I'm like, it was such a good show before the writer's strike. And then after that, and and this was back in the Netflix days whenever you would get one DVD in the mail to watch it. So even though I was binge watching it, I was binge watching it at however fast the postal service was moving.
Yeah.
And by the time that I was able to watch it in real time with the rest of the world, the show had jumped the shark and I couldn't, it was just bad. And I was upset that I'd spent hours of my life so invested in this thing. And then it just fizzled, which
Yeah.
is why to this day I cannot watch any hyped TV series because people are like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I've been through some things. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
doing that again.
Yeah. I've been burned enough. Like, I've got some scars, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I had the same. I think most everybody feels that way about Lost. Like you're totally bought into it, and then yeah, the writer strike happened, and I don't know, like the characters are all backed into a corner, and oh, there's gunfire from somewhere, and we run this way, and now this thing happens, and smoke monster, what smoke monster? And yeah,
Well, and like the character, it was the young black boy that kept showing up and then disappearing. That was never answered.
Walt,
Well,
yes,
yes. And then also like the animal. Also, if anyone has not watched Lost, sorry for the spoilers. I don't
yeah,
care. I'm bitter about this and also don't watch it because I don't like how it ended. Unless you want to remake the ending, watch it and then I'll re-watch the ending. Anyway, um, but like all the animals that had like this scientific emblem on them, no one
Dharma Initiative. Look, who's into this show? You don't know Walt's name? You don't know the Dharma Initiative? Come
listen,
on.
I went through the trauma and I choose not to remember certain
Yeah, you
things because
blocked
I
it
don't want to
out.
relive it.
Yeah. I'm just
But
remembering the good times.
yeah. So is this a podcast now of just trashing on Lost and
I bet you know what? It's not a bad idea. You could probably get enough content out of it. Honestly, do a rewatch of Lost and just yeah, I'm
should we
down.
should we create a podcast of all the things that we didn't like how they ended? We just to come up with the new best ending?
I love this idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Let's end this right now and pivot.
I mean, we
It's a
could
really
do
dissatisfying ending to this.
we could do Game of Thrones.
No, totally. You could do Sopranos for sure.
I've never watched it.
Well, that okay, Sopranos is one of those shows that is really, really great. You enjoy it. It has, there's some peaks and valleys. Some of it's really great. Some of you're like, hurry up. The fact that it ended on such a wrenched angle kind of ruined everything that had happened prior.
Well, but they say because now there's a documentary out there about The Sopranos. They say with how it ended, it's one of those shows that people still talk about the different options it could have been. And so it's a show that still has people talking about it. Well, I mean, we're talking about all these shows today because I didn't like how they ended. Um, but I think it's also one of those things like we can make a choose your own adventure podcast and then like, hey, yes, this is how one group of creators had it end. We are going to give you several different other options of how, and if you want us to play out one of these other options, pay us $20 and then we'll do that.
I like that you're spending time on this podcast talking about better ideas for other podcasts.
It's kind of the whole secondhand sales market is I'm going to take someone else's idea and repurpose it for
That's
how I
right.
want to live my life.
That's right.
Are you planning a garage sale, yard sale, or estate sale and need some help? Look no further than Garage Sale Supply. They provide top-notch resources and expert advice to help you host the perfect sale. From pricing tips to promotional strategies, they've got you covered. Visit GarageSaleSupply.com and make your next sale a success.
But no, you're describing something where you're totally into the show, but you actually saw the other shoe drop. You're like, whoa, hey, wait, the quality dropped off here. What the hell is going on? This is not the same show. I'm not as into it. I'm talking about something that you saw through, and after the fact, you're like, okay, I was way too invested in this to see it for what it really was.
Are you talking about a pyramid scheme?
Are you about to admit something?
I feel like this should just now be a conversation of questions back and forth. I don't know. Am I about to admit something? So like I think one time in my life I didn't ever sell it. I've never been part of a network marketing pyramid scheme. But I used to try the Plexus products. I also know like there's Amway stuff out there.
Oh,
There's
right. Or like Herbalife and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's also like there's Cincy stuff out there. And while I've used some of those products, I've never been like, I'm gonna be a consultant and I'm gonna run my own business and girl boss so hard and make millions of dollars. I've never done any of that stuff, but I'm fascinated by those multi-level marketing
I think
platforms.
that's a pretty good example, where people kind of get into it and they're like invested in a number of ways, financially, emotionally, time, to the point that they're like, either that you can't see it for what it is, or once you're out of it, you're like, oh God, how did I almost bankrupted our family with this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also a really good documentary out there about the LuLaRoe clothing line. And I think they're still around, but not nearly the size of what they once were. But it was a multi-level marketing scheme.
Okay. Well, okay, then there's that. I want you to think in those terms. I want you to
Tell me
kind of
the answer that you want me to say.
I'm sorry?
Tell me the answer that you want me to say.
I just want you to say yes, that yes, you've been wrong. That's what every one of these is about, is trying to get our sibling to admit they're wrong.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Okay, then how about this question? What do you consider to be authentic? I think we recently did an episode where, you were wanting to do the semantic thing, and I went, uh-oh, this is kind of like an idea that I had about something, but dig in a little bit into the concept of authentic. What does authentic mean to you?
Are we talking about authentic objects and items or people?
Let's say objects and items for the purposes of our show. Yeah. Stuff.
To me, I want to say authentic. I'm going to say it's original. So it's not a knockoff of someone else's idea, design, high quality. So they put time and effort into sourcing whatever it's made out of. And original thought.
Okay.
Did I get it right?
Yes. You are. Yeah.
Episode over. Thanks for listening,
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah. So I asked these questions as kind of to set the table a little bit for what I'm proposing is a sequel episode to one that you had brought to us a few weeks ago. A few years back, I think it made news here recently, but the actual events happened a few years ago. So you brought to the attention of this podcast the potential of a Van Gogh that was unearthed in a Minnesota garage sale.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
So the actual sale occurred in 2016. Somebody, if you didn't listen to that episode, you can go back to it and hear us swear and everything like that. But somebody bought a painting that might be a Vincent Van Gogh for about $50 at a garage sale in Minnetonka, Minnesota. Just this past week, there's been some news on this.
Oh.
Yes, there's an update.
Dun dun dun.
Yes. So,
Sorry, I got to tell everyone. Jacob did something that we don't usually do for the podcast, and he did research. And he has a lot of notes on his notepad, and I
Yeah.
am appalled that he actually did research.
Oh
Because
yeah,
that's not the name of the game here.
I've got a storage unit a la True Detective, filled with notes and cork board and cursed VHS tapes.
I just imagine you sitting in front of your cork board, smoking a cigarette, going, "This means something."
Oh yeah, that's right. So that sale occurred in 2016. A art collector purchased it from that purchaser for an undisclosed amount. And then they presented it. The collector presented it to the Vincent Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, I believe.
Yes.
Presented it to them for authentication. Now, the museum, this is like, it's the Van Gogh Museum. It's the place. They know this stuff. And they get bombarded with thousands of requests for authentication all the time, every year. And they have to, there's only so many they can take.
I'm going to mail them a letter of just my own drawing and be like, "Can you please authenticate this?"
Yeah, right. Just do like the trace
Yeah, the
your
turkey
make the
hand
turkey,
drawing.
like, yes.
Can you
Vincent
please
Van-
put a stamp on? Can it be a scratch and sniff stamp? I want to show my family.
Oh,
I would
they look
totally have
at
our parents put it on their fridge.
yes,
Sorry.
yeah.
Now I have a new goal in life.
So the Van Gogh Museum looked at it in 2019 and said, no, that's not a Van Gogh. Sorry. So, not to be discouraged, the art collector worked with a group called LMI Group. The LMI Group is a data science firm.
Sexy.
Yeah, they apply data science, as they put it on their site. They apply data science in the service of the arts and cultural heritage. Their site is really cool, and it's like right up front. They're showing all the work they did on this thing, and it's very well put together site. It goes really deep, but does a really good job of showing the depth of the work they did in a pretty short and understandable space. I mean, I was able to look at it and go, "Oh, okay, wow, that's really cool." I'm no data scientist, but that's way cool. So the LMI group conducted a four years of research.
Extensive.
Yes. They're saying they spent like 30 grand on the research.
Over 4 years, I only spent 30
I
grand.
I don't know. I'm from what they did, I'm thinking it was a lot more. But as a
Sounds
20
like they did a lot of meetings to eventually do the
I
research.
know, I know. This research could have been an email. So a 20-person team of over 4 years, and of course they're doing other work too, but
I was
on
going to
other
say they didn't get paid enough for 20 people, 30 grand.
the site shows other work they do that seems also really, really, really cool. They're documenting handwritten documents, really doing a lot of forensic work in a lot of handwritten documents that pertain to the Middle Passage and like what conditions were like on ships that transported slaves from Africa. And it's like all like with artifacts from the time and
That
really
is very cool.
reconstructing the history. Very cool. 20-person team, 4 years, deep analysis of brush styles, canvas size, how facial features were shadowed, an in-depth analysis of other Van Gogh works, looking into the stroke curves and everything like that. Hey, here's other letters that were, written or signed on other confirmed Van Gogh works.
Hey, Jake, before I got married, I also examined stroke curves.
Nice.
Thank
Great.
you. Bringing it back to mayhem.
Good God. In the course of their work, Julie, they even found an embedded human hair in the paint.
Oh,
Yes.
like
And
almost like a hair in your soup.
almost, it's just, this one's really old. They DNA tested it.
Was it Van Gogh's?
It was too old and degraded to really, well, one, like, do you have Van Gogh's DNA? How could you tell? Well, you could
I'm
track
going to
down
send
his,
them a bunch of hair in the mail.
it's like, here's a bag of hair. Do with it what you will. They couldn't make a connection to any individual, but they did say, hey, look, it seems red. And there is enough DNA evidence here to say this is a human male hair. So there's that. I'm going to go a little further into their research here, okay?
Boring. Just make it up as you go along.
So, like, no, the website does a cool job of showing you kind of what they did. I learned in looking at this stuff that part of the authentication process in looking at a canvas is analyzing something called its warp and weft of canvas threads. What's warp, Julie?
Sorry. This is the sexiest episode ever.
I know, stroke curves, wefting. The warp are the vertical strands of the canvas threads. It's called that because warp comes from an Old English term that is spelled different, probably sounds the same, but it means to throw, as in to warp someplace, right?
Okay.
The weft are the horizontal threads. That is also from an Old English term that is like WEFAN. It's not pronounced that way, but it means to weave. So they look at the warp and the weft, and the canvas. They were trying to answer the question whether the canvas thread construction was consistent with the period that they think. If this was Van Gogh, here's how canvases were, and did
Yeah.
it match up? After all that work, they went, well, we don't know. So they did more work. and really in doing all of this work, LMI feels that they've actually kind of advanced the science of thread analysis, that this work will actually help subsequent efforts in the field when it comes to looking at canvases and threads and everything like that. And this is all around looking at this, question around whether this is an original Van Gogh. Still with me so
Okay.
far?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like the FBI art crime unit is just on pins and needles listening to this podcast today.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm glad they get something out of it because God knows they're listening in anyway.
Yeah.
Any subversive, messages. So, LMI did all this work across all of these years, put together a 450-page report that you can actually go to their website, request, receive, and read. Did I do that? No, I did not.
I was gonna say, how much research did you do for this?
I have no time. I have no life. There's nothing on TV I want to watch.
Oh my God.
I got burned by Lost.
Honestly, I feel you.
So the Van Gogh Museum received LMI's 450 plus page report.
That'll show them to deny my painting.
And they, after 4 years of research by a 20-person team creating a 450 plus page report, the Van Gogh Museum looked at it in less than a day and said, nope, it's not a Van Gogh.
Who did they piss off there?
Can you imagine 4 years of this work, 450 pages. This amazing website that is honestly, go look at it. It's cool. And you send it back out, and your professor's like, nope, you still fail. They don't even look at it.
I stayed up all night
Yeah.
doing my footnotes.
There's some twists to this tale.
Okay.
Okay. The painting is going to be referred to as Elimar, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's been referring to it as such because the word Elimar is on there. Elimar. So I want to kind of share the experience I went through in doing the research here.
Sorry, you spelled out the name of the painting, and Elimar was his name. Oh,
So, Elimaro. The process I went through started off like I stumbled across the headline update about this thing
okay.
that the Van Gogh Museum, I didn't even realize had looked at it before. I thought the garage sale find was recent. It was, 2016. So I find out, oh, the Van Gogh Museum said, no, it's not real. I was like, well, that stinks. I'm going to tell Julie about that and ruin her day. This is awesome.
Hey, if you don't have a sibling, this is what it's like.
And then I did some more research and went, oh, wait, no, they had turned it down back in 2019. Who's this LMI Group? Oh, they did a lot of work. And I looked at their site and I went, oh, cool. I mean, look at all this crazy stuff they did with all this technology and everything. That solves it. Because on their website, it's like, hey, Van Gogh's Elimar resurfaced. I was like, sweet, they actually proved it. And then I did some more research, and the Van Gogh Museum went, nope, sorry, you're wrong again. And I went, wait a second, why is this going on?
Yeah. Do you have to pay the Van Gogh Museum like a certain amount of money for them to?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, I don't believe so.
Do you think they used AI to process that 400 something document to be like, hey, no, I read the AI summary. It didn't get us what we need.
Oh, do they use like an AI to summarize the 450 page document?
Yeah, like that's a lot to try to do in one day. And also, do they read English? I mean, I know that they do, but like, or were they just like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna. I'm going on vacation.
Yeah,
I'm not
they're
doing
like,
this.
man, it's almost 4:00 in Dutch time.
Just
And
throw it into the emails that get a no reply.
I'm about to slip into my clogs and, go ride my bike to eat some tulips. Like just
So, okay, just FYI on Amsterdam, I've been there, and they have They have more bicycles per capita than people. Like it's just amazing. So what happens is that somebody will ride their bike to a train station or ferry or whatever. They park their bike there, they lock it up, and then wherever their next destination is, they have another bike there. So then they can bike to the next thing. And so people have multiple bikes in different locations so that they don't have to carry their bikes onto public transit.
that sounds so good. That sounds so good.
But there's just bikes everywhere. There's also bikes in the canals, which they all constantly have to clean out.
Right.
Sorry.
But that's like, yeah, but like how many giant freaking pickup trucks do they have? Are they really living free? Come on.
I really like Amsterdam. I love that part of Europe because when we were taking the train to another country, you're passing through all this like green agriculture fields with all these beautiful greenhouses. And, whenever I get reincarnated into a bird, I'm just going to live over there.
So you could see why, like, when that is just outside your office and somebody drops a 450 page report, oh, it's these assholes again. And they gave you freaking War and Peace to read. You're like, look, I've got a bike that's calling my name. And,
I'm going to go smoke a joint outside at the red light district. You're
is it a
killing
Van
my
Gogh?
happy hour
Yes,
time.
probably. I'm off, So I looked at this and I was like, wait a second. So what is the pass rate for this museum?
Oh yeah. What is it?
Like, are they just like, I went to internet and I asked
Okay.
internet, are museums reticent to authenticate? And then internet asked ChatGPT, what does reticent mean? And then ChatGPT came back with like, there's nothing like I couldn't find anything about it. about that. I didn't find any real commentary as to whether museums are, one, reticent means hesitant to, not likely to. So I was asking, like, hey, are museums just, generally not likely to authenticate for some reason? Are they just kind of stubborn about it? ChatGPT came back with that and also suggested that I have soup with arsenic in it. So
ChatGPT's going dark, man.
And that's the end of part 1. Join us again next week for part 2. It gets even juicier than what Jacob has already presented to us. So again, thanks for listening to the podcast, and we will see you next week. Bye.